Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we get to watch level 50 Enamorus go hunting for Palkia Origin and Dialga in the Open Master League. These battles were submitted to the channel by a fellow content creator, Find Panic, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now after getting the perfect IV Enamorus on Valentine's Day, Find Panic had a choice. He could use his stash of Rare Candy XL to power up a meta Pokemon like Zygarde, or he could invest in the spice and max the Enamorus, and that's exactly what he did. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out level 50 Enamorus in the Open Master League. Hopping to the first match, picking up a tough lead, leading Dialga Origin into Landorus. And this is a bit of a core breaker for this team, as Landorus with Stone Edge can hit the Enamorus for super effective damage as well. So just choosing to stay in here with the Dialga. Dialga farming up energy, going to fire off the Iron Head. Even debuffed, this does a solid chunk of damage, so we are going to see the Landorus commit a shield. Landorus over farming, but they do not commit to the farm down. They throw energy, and honestly, that works out pretty nicely, as you can just let the Dialga go, send in the Palkia, and absorb this Sensor Storm, and potentially try and look for a farm down. Opponent not going to let that happen. They're going to save switch into Quick Attack Zacian, and in comes level 50 Enamorus. Opponent farms up to the back-to-back wild charges. Enamorus is going to commit the shield as wild charge number 1 is thrown and go for the Dazzling Gleam, winning charge attack priority. Enamorus is very glassy. It does not have high bulk, but that allows it to have an extremely high attack stat, being able to even win CMP over something like Dialga. The opponent is now at -4 defense, so Enamorus can overfarm, again play to charge attack priority, and the Fly is going to pick up the knockout into the heavily debuffed Zacian. In the back, it's Xerneas. Enamorus farming up and firing off the Fly. The Fly into the Xerneas does some very nice damage. Enamorus banks the Fly, switches into the Palkia. Opponent is going to fire off the Moonblast one turn before the Aqua Tail is reached. Moonblast picks up the knockout. Back in comes Enamorus. Enamorus wanting to get rid of the Xerneas as quickly as possible. Fly is going to pick up the KO. All that's left is the low health Landorus, which is unable to make it to the Stone Edge. Enamorus picks up the knockout and takes the win. Moving into the next match, leading Dialga Origin into Mewtwo. Honestly, not a bad spot to see the Mewtwo on this team. The opponent is going to stay in this matchup. Dialga will make the Iron Head before a potential Focus Blast is reached, and the opponent is going to farm up to a potential Focus Blast. The Iron Head will be shielded, opponent trying to preserve HP on the Mewtwo, and now a choice. Do you respect the Focus Blast? No, calling the bait, and it's the Psy Strike. Dialga continuing to farm, Mewtwo firing off energy, Dialga again going for the no shield, the opponent going for another Psy Strike, Dialga able to hang on and make it to a second Iron Head. They've already shielded once, are they willing to give up both shields? No, they are not, and now in comes their own Dialga. Dialga will get the farm down, but now it's going to be answered with Enamorus. Enamorus only going to be able to hit for neutral damage here, but the thing is, Enamorus has a massive attack stat, so Dazzling Gleam is definitely going to hurt. Enamorus shielding up the Iron Head, now going for the Dazzling Gleam. Do they respect it? They do. They commit the shield. Enamorus continuing to farm. Enamorus makes Dazzling Gleam number 2. Let's see. This is only neutral damage onto Dialga. It still picks up the knockout. All that's left in the bag is the Palkia. Opponent recognizes they do not have a win con, and they concede the match. Great lead in the next match, Dialga Origin versus Palkia. Opponent save switches into Landorus, and Landorus will be met with Enamorus. Enamorus does have a pacing advantage in this matchup, but one Fly is not going to be enough to knock out, whereas a Stone Edge will absolutely destroy the glassy Enamorus. Enamorus does have shields to hide behind, getting the shield called correct on the Stone Edge and going for the Fly. The opponent does have some stored energy here, and they want to preserve it as they use the first shield. Landorus overfarms. We see the double shield now from the Enamorus. Enamorus will be able to make it to the Fly, going for a slight overfarm. Does the opponent want to make a play for switch? They have to double shield. If so, the farm and the catch, catching the Stone Edge onto Dialga Origin. That keeps the Enamorus alive for the endgame. In the back, it's Heatran. Heatran will be able to go for a Magma Storm, but a Magma Storm is not going to be enough to pick up the knockout, so they're just going to go for farm. Roar of Time connects, getting that Heatran deep into the red. Heatran going to be firing off the Magma Storm to the Dialga. Magma Storm plus a Fire Spin will be able to pick up the knockout, but now you can just go for energy on the Palkia. They do make a Stone Edge, but Palkia is perfectly fine here, able to absorb that Stone Edge damage and get the farm down. The opponent still has the extremely low health Landorus, and we know they still have the Palkia. In comes Enamorus farming up to the Dazzling Gleam. Let's see this damage. This is a full health Palkia. Get absolutely one shot. In comes the Landorus, and the opponent concedes the match. Moving into the next match, leading Dialga Origin into Meloetta. So the opponent also using a Pokemon that's powered up with Rare Candy XL. Opponent save switches into Altered Dialga, just gonna stay in here with the Origin. Origin is gonna go for the Roar of Time, but losing charge attack priority. Switch should take a turn from the start, so the opponent should have been one turn behind, so we do see the correct no shield. The Roar of Time does get shielded, and now a switch into Enamorus. Enamorus will be met with the Iron Head. We see the immediate shield. Enamorus, if it has shields to hide behind, looks like it can output some very nice damage, but if those shields are down, or if it's in a shield disadvantageous position, the lack of bulk is going to be a big problem. In comes the Meloetta. Meloetta going to be met with the Dazzling Gleam. Meloetta is quite tanky in the Master League. This is neutral damage, and it still does like 2/3 of its HP. The damage output from this thing, it looks really, really fun. I hope they bring it to actual non-elite raids at some point. In the back, it is Landorus. Landorus will be answered with the Palkia Origin. I think I was able to get like 80-ish XLs from, I think it was the first two of the Elite Raid hours. I didn't end up doing the nighttime ones, but I'm hoping that it comes back to raids, because I would love the ability to actually get a good IV one, which obviously Panic was lucky enough to get. I unfortunately was not, and to finish my XLs, because this thing does look quite fun. Back in comes the Meloetta. Opponent needing the Meloetta to sweep. The debuffed Aqua Tail will be shielded. Palkia continuing to farm, looking to switch into Dialga, and the back-breaking catch. Oh man, catching the Psyshock onto Dialga, and Dialga just gonna get that farm down and take the win. Picking up a bit of an awkward lead in the next match, Dialga versus Primarina. Primarina is running Charm, so they are going to be hitting for neutral damage. And Charm Primarina, you're definitely a bit happy to see it here, because this thing absolutely destroys Palkia. Iron Head is going to hit for neutral. We're now going to see a save switch into Enamorus, answered by a Ni-Ggo. You have got to be kidding me. Oh my goodness, the Dazzling Gleam actually gets shielded by the opponent, so the opponent might not be super familiar with the moveset of Enamorus, but oh my goodness, the Ni-Ggo tech, oh man, that is just brutal. The Rock Slide will be shielded, understanding that 2 Rock Slides would actually pick up the knockout, so preserving a little bit of HP on the Dialga to be able to make it to an Iron Head is actually pretty nice. Farming up, going for the Iron Head, that looked to be charge attack priority there. This Iron Head into the Ni-Ggo is double super effective and picks up the knockout. The opponent, they're probably sending back in that Primarina, and they do. We now see the switch into the Palkia. Palkia taking massive damage from the charms. Palkia shields up Disarming Voice. In the back, it's Avalugg. Oh man, this is looking extremely tough to win. Just going straight for the Spatial Rend here. The Spatial Rend is going to be shielded up by the opponent. Palkia, no shields remaining, no way to stop the incoming damage. Avalugg goes for the Icy Wind. The Palkia is now debuffed. Avalugg cannot get the farm down, and we do see the debuff Spatial Rend reach. This will get the Avalugg pretty low. In comes the Dialga. Dialga gets the farm down. In comes the Primarina, and the Primarina just gets the KO with the charm. Moving into the next match, leading Dialga into Origin Palkia. Okay, very, very nice lead. Opponent is going to save switch into an Altered Dialga, and Origin is more than happy to stay in here. Origin is going to farm up, build up to the Roar of Time, and this time decide to go for the Iron Head bait. The bait gets called. Oh my goodness, that is unfortunate. Origin Dialga now going to commit the shield as the opponent goes for a Thunder of all things. Thunder, I don't really see a big need for on Dialga. Draco Meteor, or in this case on the Origin Roar of Time, is just a better move to run by far. We're now going to see the Palkia get brought back in. Oh man, this is just short of the Roar of Time, but the opponent doesn't trust the counts. They shield. In comes the Enamorus. Enamorus will be answered with the Landorus. Going for the bait here, firing off the Fly. The Fly will be shielded by the opponent, and this means there's nothing stopping a potential Dazzling Gleam. I'm curious to see how much damage this can do. The Stone Edge does get shielded, farming up. Oh no! Tried to get to the back-to-back, but the Stone Edge is reached. It picks up the knockout, and all that energy gets lost. Oh, that's extremely unfortunate there. Landorus now going to go for a debuff onto the Palkia. Palkia continuing to farm. Palkia going for the Aqua Tail just before the opponent is able to make Sandsear number 2. Is Palkia still able to clutch here? It needs to make it to the Spatial Rend. Palkia. Oh man, the opponent fires off the Aqua Tail, but I don't think Aqua Tail will KO. The Aqua Tail just does not KO. The Hundo Palkia needing every single bit of that 15 HP stat to hang on and deliver a win. The good leads for Dialga continue in the next match as it leads into a Giratina Altered. Giratina Altered is very bulky, but it has really poor damage output in the Open Master League. Like, they can go for neutral Dragon Claw, but look at this damage onto the Dialga Origin. That just does nothing. Opponent save switches into their Altered Dialga, so this team has 2 Origins, and the opponent has 2 Altered forms, going straight for the Roar of Time. That gets shielded, in comes Enamorus. Again, Enamorus up a shield is where it likes to be. If it does get into a shield disadvantageous situation, it's going to be in a really rough spot. Enamorus looking to overfarm, no baits here, going straight for the Dazzling Gleam. Does the opponent shield? They do not. That's going to be a goodbye Dialga. In the back, it's Togekiss farming up with the Enamorus. Enamorus building up to the Dazzling Gleam, looking to try and go for double fly. The first fly gets shielded. Enamorus able to make it to a last second fly number 2. Unable to quite make the Dazzling Gleam, but the fly is still going to do some very nice damage. In comes the Dialga. Dialga will be met with the charge attack from the Togekiss, shielding up as the opponent goes for the Ancient Power. They do not get the boost. We now see the switch into the Giratina, able to bank the Iron Head for later. It may have been a slightly safer play to throw the Iron Head and then just farm down with the Palkia, but either way should be winning here, as the Palkia will be able to withstand the Dragon Claw and just make it to a charge attack that will be able to pick up the knockout. Giratina Altered is very bulky, so Aqua Tail I don't think would quite KO, so guaranteeing the knockout with the Spatial Rend. Togekiss will get the farm down, but Dialga banked that Iron Head from earlier, and Iron Head is going to be massive overkill, KOing the Togekiss and taking the win. We see a familiar lead in the next match, Dialga Origin versus Landorus. Not the greatest lead for the Dialga, this time not staying in. We're going to see a save switch into the Enamorus. Enamorus is going to strike first and fire off the Fly. Fly is going to be no shielded, that does quite a lot of damage. Landorus over farming, and we will see an immediate shield from the Enamorus. Landorus, oh, they went for the Sandsear Storm bait. They try and go for a fly catch onto Dialga, and Dialga will not be hit with a Dazzling Gleam. Unfortunately, this Gleam has been debuffed, so Dialga is going to be able to tank it better than it typically would. Enamorus continuing to farm. Do we see the double shield here? Yes, protecting the Enamorus. Enamorus farming up quite a lot of energy, going to full send the Dazzling Gleam. The opponent has not used a shield yet, trying to sneak this past both shields, and the opponent is going to let that through. We're now going to see a switch into the Dialga, saving energy on the Enamorus. Landorus is going to fire off Sandsear Storm. That does quite a lot of damage. Oh no, and they make it to Sandsear Storm number 2. That is going to pick up the knockout. And now, do you go for energy on Enamorus or onto the Palkia? In comes the Palkia. In the back, the opponent has their own Palkia, and this could get interesting. Farming up, going for the Aqua Tail when the Spatial Rend is reached, but losing charge attack priority. The opponent goes for their own Aqua Tail, understanding that they're going to want energy to be able to knock out Enamorus. Now we see the switch into Enamorus. Enamorus, oh, cannot make it to the double fly. Is this going to be enough to KO? The Aqua Tail does KO. In comes the Palkia, able to farm down the opponent. All that's left in the back is the Landorus, and on 1 HP, the Palkia takes the win. Moving into the next match, getting Dialga into Xerneas. A bit of a tricky lead, but honestly not terrible for Dialga. Xerneas does win the zeros, as long as they make the correct play, which is to go for the Moonblast, but Dialga can still get the Xerneas low enough that hopefully it can set up a nice farm down for one of the back Pokemon. Dialga is going to fire off the Iron Head just before the close combat is reached. The Iron Head will be no shielded by the Xerneas. This will be the close combat from the Xern, and I like just letting this go and going for farm potentially on the Enamorus. Opponent not going to let that happen. They're going to pivot into their Landorus, and Landorus will immediately be met with the Fly. Fly is going to hurt. Opponent commits the shield. Enamorus continuing to farm, going for the fly but losing charge attack priority. Enamorus has an extremely high attack stat. Landorus is one of the few things that can actually win charge attack priority over Enamorus. Enamorus goes for the fly, that does big damage. In comes the Palkia looking for the farm down, but Landorus says no. Able to make the Sand Seer Storm. This doesn't do a ton of damage, but it does come with that attack drop, and the Palkia is still switch locked for another 35 seconds. Opponent, they're going to send in the Xerneas. Oh, they are weak in the back if they're sending this in. Aqua Tail is going to be enough to pick up the knockout onto the Xerneas. What do they have in the back? They have their own Palkia. The Spatial Rend is barely able to be reached, and that's game over right there. The opponent no longer has a win con. The Spatial Rend is going to connect, and that's a good game. Hopping into the final match, Origin Palkia is going to be met with Origin Dialga. Opponent save switches to Landorus, now going to be answered with the Origin Palkia, and this is a pretty comfortable matchup for the Origin Palkia as long as you do throw on good charge attack timing. This is a matchup where if you end up giving Landorus a couple extra mud shots, Landorus does have the ability to flip the twos by landing 2 Sand Seers and getting a mud shot farm down. We are going to see a no shield by the Palkia. Palkia farming up, making it to the Aqua Tail. Opponent has a difficult choice to make. They've already shielded once. They're double shielding. And instead of potentially trying to go for the farm down, they're just going to fire off their energy. That works out pretty nicely, as they had to give up 2 shields to do that. And now Dialga is going to get a nice energy advantage. And there's very few things in the game that want to deal with an up energy Dialga when they have no shields. There's one of them. In comes Solgaleo. Solgaleo is going to be met with the Roar of Time. This is debuff, but it's still going to leave a mark. The Roar of Time connects. Opponent will fire off the Psychic Fangs. Dialga more than happy to stay in here, because this way the Enamorus is not getting absolutely deleted by the Lion. They're going for another Psychic Fangs. We can see the no shield here from the Dialga, but it will get the Dialga low. Dialga deep into the red. Opponent tries to go for the snipe as they send in the Palkia. I believe an Iron Head was banked. I will have to check that. Palkia goes for the Aqua Tail. That does so much damage. This thing cannot take a hit whatsoever. Oh my goodness. Enamorus going for the Dazzling Gleam. Goodbye Palkia. In comes Solgaleo. Solgaleo will be met with the fly. This will not be enough to knock out here. It all comes down to this. Is there a move banked on the Dialga? Dialga does have that Iron Head banked, and that's going to be game over, as Iron Head will pick up the win. All in all, Enamorus looks to be a very fun Pokemon in the Master League. While it can output a tremendous amount of damage, that comes at a serious cost. This thing cannot take a hit whatsoever. We saw how much damage a neutral Aqua Tail did to this thing. Imagine any super effective charge move, or even like a Psy Strike from a Mewtwo. That would just absolutely crush the Enamorus. Enamorus is also in a bit of an awkward spot where there are already some extremely strong meta-relevant fairies like Zacian and Xerneas. So I do think that Enamorus could potentially see some off-meta play. It's going to be tough for it to see any legitimate meta play at the current moment, as Dazzling Gleam is just a bit expensive. Getting Moonblast in the future would be quite nice for it. And on top of that, Zacian and Xerneas just occupy the niche of fairy types so well, and the fact that they're both able to hit steel types really does give them the edge. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.